Hello, all of you beautiful people, and welcome back or welcome to the Voice of Reality podcast. I am, as always, so excited to have you here, no matter what that looks like. Maybe you're driving, walking, doing your cardio, or maybe you're just listening as you get some jobs done around the house. Whatever that might be, I hope that this is something that you enjoy and you enjoy the episode itself. I'm actually really excited about this episode because it's one that I've wanted to do for a while, but it needed its time and place. And there's so many important topics, obviously, that we do talk about and that we need to obviously delve into. But this week's topic, I know so many of you are going to really enjoy this. I'm going to really enjoy this because it is something that I'm very passionate about and something that I obviously talk about a lot on Instagram, Life in Gym Gear, and just in general stories to all of my clients, to anyone that will listen to me. Let's be honest. I love talking about this. So this week's episode is on building your dream physique. Okay. Building your dream physique and what it takes to actually get after that. I think something that a lot of people misinterpret when I say this or when we talk about this is I don't mean, okay, just going into a calorie deficit and losing a bit of weight. I mean literally building the physique that you've always dreamed of, right? And keyword here being building. Second keyword being dream, and then physique. Okay. And one thing that I want to lead this by is that it's not your dream physique if it's a nightmare to maintain. That's something that I also do say a lot and something that I always want everyone to realize. Okay. I think before we start chatting about all of this is a lot of people get caught up in what other people's dream physique is or what they think their dream physique is or what they see someone else do online. And it's not actually what they want or that they need. And you really need to remember that your dream physique should be something you can maintain, something that you can sustain, and something that doesn't literally make your life a nightmare, and something that is actually adding more stress than good. Okay, your dream physique should be something that you can maintain and that actually fits into your lifestyle and that you can get to without upending everything else. So let's get into it. Okay, let's get into the Building Your Dream Physique podcast, this episode, and what we want to take from this. There's a few things that I want you to be able to take from this and to pinpoint. And one thing is that your mindset is definitely very important. Of course, nutrition. We're also going to talk about training as well. And then we're going to go specifically into glutes too, because I know, ladies, I know that is extremely important for all of us. So there is a lot of kind of breakdowns that we're going to bring into this, but I think they're the main ones that we do really want to delve into and talk about. One thing that I hear all of the time as an online coach and as a health and fitness coach for women is the goal of wanting to look lean and toned. Okay. The goal of wanting to look lean, just looking like I go to the gym. I actually hear that a lot. And hey girl, like I feel you, like everyone wants to look like they go to the gym. Everyone wants to look fit and strong and lean and toned. But what I don't think everyone understands and realizes is what that actually means and the science behind it. Okay. First things first, you need to realize that looking lean and looking toned and fit and strong is going to take more time than you imagine, because it's not just going into a calorie deficit and losing body fat. It is building muscle so that when you do lose body fat, you can see that muscle. So it does take a few different phases in order to create this look that you want to create. So you need to remind yourself that, okay, so if I do actually want to look lean, if I do want to look fit, strong, and toned, it's going to take more time than I think it will, because it's not just a few months of being in a calorie deficit. It's actually most likely for a lot of people and for a majority of clients that I work with on the team, it's going into a calorie deficit and finding the routine and the foundations first. Then it's building muscle so that we're able to see more muscle come to life to create that lean and toned look, and then going back into a calorie deficit so that we don't obviously have any excess body fat and that we're seeing as much muscle mass as possible. And I don't mean that we are Arnie out here. I mean that we look still gorgeous and feminine, but yes, we do look fit and we're looking strong and we look like we go to the gym. That honestly is such a major goal for so many people. I just don't understand. I just don't think people understand that it takes an awful lot more time than you imagine. But that's okay. Okay. And that's something that we're going to discuss and address, obviously, as we push forward now this week. So, as we chat now, one big thing that I obviously want to chat about and that I obviously want to make sure you all are taking on board is the mindset that we need to be in when we want to build our physique. Okay. As I said, keyword there is build. We want to build, not shrink. And that is the mindset that we need to remind ourselves. For some people, it is genuinely the goal of just wanting to lose body fat or wanting to lose weight. But genuinely, 98% of people that I talk to, 98% of my clients, if I ask them, do you want to look lean and fit and healthy and strong, or do you want to just lose weight? I am guaranteeing you 100%, 99% would tell me they want to look lean and fit and strong. And that means that we need to build, not shrink. Okay? The goal isn't always smaller. The goal isn't always shrinking ourselves into the smallest position we can be in. And we need to train our mindsets to realize that and to realize that if we do want to look fit and strong, and if we do want to be our healthiest self, of course, we aren't going to be our smallest, skinniest, slimmest self. We're actually going to be wanting to build muscle and to build our strength. Okay. And this is a mindset shift that we need to tune into because it's your mindset that can play tricks on you. It may take time as well, obviously, okay? Because of course your mindset, we have been so focused in on as a society, let's be real, growing up the toxic traits of the 90s and the 2000s that we have seen on telly, in magazines, and now that we're seeing on social media. It has been crazy, obviously, growing up throughout that. And our mindset is obviously massively tuned into being smaller, being our skinniest self, weighing less, and just trying to constantly chase a calorie deficit. Whereas now we want to try and retune and rewrite our narrative into realizing actually that's not always what we want, okay? And sometimes for a majority of people, the goal is actually that we want to be fitter, stronger, healthier, more lean, more toned, build more muscle mass. And, you know, that's okay as well, but our mindset needs to realize that. Our mindset needs to realize that. It is probably one of the most freeing things that you will ever do for yourself to allow your mindset to make that shift. Because you don't understand probably how consumed you are by the weighing scales, by numbers, by chasing your smallest, skinnier self. And it's not sustainable. It's not healthy. And your mindset is beating you up. You're constantly negative. You're constantly doubting yourself. And it probably is one of the most freeing things you'll ever do to start shifting and changing your mindset into building, not shrinking. Okay? Repeat after me. We are building our dream physique. We're not shrinking it into a box. And that is extremely, extremely important. Obviously, at the moment, we know that there is like pandemics going on with regards to being thin, being skinny, Mounjaro, Ozempic, everything else out there that we see. So it's hard not to tune into that and to see it. But we do need to constantly be reminding ourselves that that's not my goal. That's not healthy. That's not something that I have to focus on. Let me focus on what I want and what I need to do and me being my healthiest self. And really, really, really tuning into your mindset there, because that will hold you back before nutrition or training ever will. Your own mindset is your biggest critique. You live in your head. Make it a safe and nice space to live in. Building muscle mass, okay, is, as I said, something that we need to always remind ourselves is going to take time. And if this is your goal, we need to change our mindset to allow ourselves to have that time. As well as this, right, we're going to have a lot better relationship with food when we're not constantly trying to starve ourselves. I don't think people understand that. When you're constantly consumed by eating less, skipping meals, starving yourself, the weight that you are on the scales, your relationship with food is toxic. I hate to tell you, but please know that if you skip breakfast because you want to lose weight, if you are on minimum toddler calories, because you want to lose weight, toxic. Okay, that is extremely toxic. If you are cutting out any food group, that is extremely toxic. If you are solely focusing on what you weigh on the scales and allowing that to dictate your entire day, that is extremely toxic. Your relationship with food and your relationship with your body is extreme. Like, that's a relationship you're going to have forever. You have to eat food all of the time for the rest of your life. So that relationship you have with food, you're going to have forever. That relationship with your body and your body image, you are going to have forever. You are going to look at yourself for the rest of your life, and you're going to live in your own body for the rest of your life. Will you please create a stronger, more positive relationship with food and with your body? And that does stem from mindset. And a massive thing, again, that we are repeating to ourselves, we are building, not shrinking. We want to be our healthiest, strongest, fittest version of ourselves, not our smallest. And that we need to constantly tell ourselves. Now we are getting into the nutritional side of things, okay? So when we want to build our dream physique, of course, as I said, mindset is number one. But number two is nutrition, right? I think a lot of people get this kind of like mixed up, where they think that training is the most important thing. And if they're training X amount of days and if they're doing X amount of activity, then they have to see changes. But girl, let me tell you right now, training means nothing if nutrition isn't where it needs to be. If your nutrition isn't where it needs to be, your training does not matter, okay? You can be going to the gym 7 days a week. You can be in the gym 2 hours of those 7 days a week. If your nutrition isn't in line with this, you may as well be sitting at home on the couch eating a packet of Doritos. Genuinely, okay? So please know how important nutrition is, because it is the one thing that no matter what else is going on, if you can control this and if you can get this right, you will see changes and you will see things happening within your physique goals. Your body needs enough energy and fuel to actually train correctly, recover correctly, and build muscle that we want to see, right? Not only that, right? That is what we need for our goals, but your body needs enough food to just wake up in the morning, breathe, get out of bed, go to work, come home from work, cook, actually just walk around and do the bare minimum. So your body needs enough fuel to just do the bare minimum, let alone to then train on top of that and maybe get extra steps in throughout the day or meet up with friends and socialize, and to be able to recover properly and to actually build muscle. I don't think people understand that if you're eating the bare minimum when it comes to nutrition and calories, then you're going to get the bare minimum back with results and back with your goals. Because your body does not care if you want to build muscle or change your physique or go through a whole body composition. If you're not eating enough, your body isn't going to be able to help you with that. So yes, it's extremely important to make sure you're fueling your body correctly and that you are then bringing that fuel into your training. Training intensity is extremely important. Extremely important. So you want to be giving 100% to your training, and you need fuel to do that. You want to be giving 100% to your recovery and to your building of muscle. Protein, of course, is extremely important, right? Let's be real. Everyone and their nanny knows that protein is extremely important. Yet some people will tend to neglect it regardless. But if anything you're going to take from this is to not neglect protein. Like, please, especially if you want to build muscle, if you want to look leaner, if you want to actually recover properly, train properly, and allow your body to be in the best physical position it can be in, protein is essential, right? Now, in having said that, every other macro is also essential. Yes, protein is extremely important and is one of the most important macros that we have when it comes to building muscle and when it comes to muscle actual breakdown and recovery. But we need everything else for it all to work together. Carbohydrates are massive for fuel. And if we want to go into training with full intensity, we need fuel. So we need carbohydrates in order to go into training, give it the full intensity, train until failure, to have energy to actually perform correctly, not only in training, but throughout our day. And then we need protein, obviously, to help us recover and to help build up that muscle that we're actually training. Of course, fats are extremely important because that's supporting our overall health. And as women, as females, this is also majorly supporting hormonal functions. I think a lot of the time people forget about fats and they tend to try and avoid them because they think that because they're called fats, they're going to make you fat. That is not true. I think one thing that we've lacked for years is making sure that we're getting enough fats into our diet, because that is where a lot of hormonal situations can come from. Hormonal fluctuations or being lower on certain things is the fact that we're avoiding certain food groups. So let's set the record straight here. Carbs we need for fuel so that we can go and perform and we can give 110% to our training. Protein we need to actually build up that muscle that we've just trained and recover properly and make sure that obviously we are in the strongest position with our muscle building. And fats we literally need to survive, right? Overall health, hormonal health, and for your hormones to be at peak positioning to then help the building of the muscle. Okay, so please know that every single macro is extremely important. Yes, protein is king, right? We love protein. But a lot of people are forgetting about their carbs and their fats then, and that's something we never want to let fly under the radar. Okay, and think about it like this. If you're constantly under eating, or if you're missing out on a certain macro, that will lead to you having poor training, poor recovery, potentially making muscle growth a lot harder as well. Because if you're not fueling yourself, you're not fueling your training, you're not fueling your recovery, and then you're also not allowing yourself to build muscle. Because you need to remember this: if you're not getting enough fuel in, your body doesn't have enough fuel to give you the muscle that you want, because your body's just being fueled to get through the day. It's not being fueled to then recover and grow muscle as well. So it's very, very important that we know this. We need fuel. Nutrition is essential, and it is one of the first things that we need to work on. You don't necessarily need like a massive calorie surplus per se. You don't need to be eating massive amounts of food. It depends on each individual, right? As we know, everyone's completely different. It depends on your starting point. It depends on what you actually want to do with your goals and your body. Depends on how much muscle mass you currently have, how much you want to build. But a lot of the time, you can create the body you want through a very, very small calorie deficit and a maintenance. You don't need to be eating massive amounts of food and being in a surplus, because we also don't want to gain too much body fat either. And a massive thing that this is called is body recomposition, where we're focusing in on kind of recomposing the body itself and allowing ourselves to build more muscle so that our body appears to look different. That is body recomp. So say, for example, we have, and we make sure, this is when training comes into it, which is our next topic, that our training is very much so in line with our goals. We want to say, build our glutes and build our back, and we want to create an hourglass figure so that our waist is smaller and that our hips are bigger and that our back is bigger, and we're creating that illusion then of us having a smaller waist as well. We're an hourglass, and that's what we want. That's what a lot of people want, and that's what we work on at New Narrative as well with 90% of our clients. So when we want to recomp our body composition, it's growing muscle in those specific areas and making sure that we're losing body fat in other specific areas. And how do we do that? This is when training comes into it, okay? Obviously, as I said, mindset, nutrition, extremely important. The two first points and the two first things that we want to make sure we're nailing. And then training comes into it. Muscle needs a reason to grow, okay? Your muscle isn't going to grow by going out and getting your steps in or by doing the bare minimum workout. You can't just go into the gym and do a few bits and bobs and expect a muscle group to grow. You can't just go into the gym and literally walk around, exercise in a few machines, not giving it the actual intensity it needs and expect your muscles to grow. It's like having a plant and not watering it and expecting it to grow. We need to remind ourselves that your muscle needs a reason. It needs to be challenged. It needs to be broken down so that it can repair and come back stronger than before. So your training needs to be intense. It needs to provide an appropriate stimulus. And intensity matters here, okay? Your training intensity extremely matters. It's not just about going in and training. It's about going in and training with purpose and training with intensity so that you are engaging that muscle, you're breaking the muscle down, and so that it's growing back and it's repairing stronger than ever. So a massive term here that we use and that a lot of us would know now is progressive overload, right? But what actually is this? Because a lot of people get this mixed up or they don't actually understand what's important when it comes to progressive overload. So the first thing there is that control and execution is first. Okay? When you're training, you need to take it in phases and you need to take it in levels. With any of our clients here at New Narrative, we go through levels and phases within training so that our body is getting used to what we're doing and we're actually able to grow our muscle through each level, and so that we're constantly progressive overloading through each level and each phase as well. The first level is control and execution. Okay? Nothing else matters if you are not controlling and if you aren't actually executing a movement as it should be executed. If you're doing a shoulder press and it's actually not engaging the shoulder and you're not able to actually do the movement correctly, what's the point? What is the point? Also, what's the point in adding in weights to that if you're not doing the movement correctly? So please know, first and foremost, first level to any training program is your control and your execution, and making sure that that foundation level is ticked before we start increasing weights, or we start increasing reps, or we start increasing quality, okay? Before anything else, we start with control. Then, of course, we can add in more weights. Then, of course, we can change up our rep ranges and look at what reps we're doing and how we can maybe do more reps or change up the rep ranges so that we're focusing more in on strength rather than volume. There's so much that we can do with training that isn't just constantly changing up the movement. We also, and as I've said, need to learn how to challenge ourselves, okay? You don't just stop as soon as it gets uncomfortable. That's a massive, massive thing. When I worked on the gym floor as well, I actually worked on the gym floor for a year before I did any online work because I needed to get that experience under my belt and I really wanted to make sure that I understood what clients need. And one massive thing that I saw whilst working on the gym floor was that people stop as soon as it gets uncomfortable. People stop as soon as they get to the position that they need to be in to keep going. As soon as it burns, as soon as it gets a little bit more uncomfortable, as soon as you feel like, okay, this isn't easy anymore, that's when people stop. That is incorrect. As soon as it gets uncomfortable, that's when you need to push harder, okay? A lot of the time is people work up to about 80% of what they can actually give. When you get to that 80%, that is when you push harder than ever before and you unlock that other 20% that actually challenges yourself. I know that there's so many people listening to this that can nod along as I say this. Who has ever been in the gym before and you're doing your set and yeah, it starts to get uncomfortable, so you stop. But you know in your head you probably could have got another 3, maybe 4 reps. You know you probably could have pushed yourself a little bit harder. It is that little bit harder. It is that little bit more of a push. It is those extra 2, 3, 4 reps. That's the challenge. That is where growth comes from. You need to push yourself past the uncomfortable part of training and past the uncomfortable part of an exercise so that you are actually seeing change. That's the intensity that we want. You want to train until failure, not training until something is uncomfortable or not easy. Another massive thing when it comes to training and seeing results is that consistency will always beat changing, okay? Consistency within the program that you're following, with the exercises and the rotation that you're following, always beats changing your program up every single week and having zero routine and zero structure. With New Narrative, and obviously with my team and clients, we normally go through 16 to 20 week blocks. Yes, without changing anything within our program with regards to, say, exercises, but we might change up things with regards to like intensity, weights, rep ranges, and we'll change things maybe with regards to the technique that we're using or, the mechanics that we're using, but we don't change the actual program itself. And I genuinely think a lot of people believe that they need to be changing things all of the time in order to see changes. Wrong. Because obviously what you need to be doing is to be consistent with a program so that you can actually consistently work on those movements, work on the weight, work on the reps, and work on the intensity so that the actual muscle that you're engaging is growing through this consistency. You do not need 15 different exercises for each muscle group. You just need a really good handful and really good quality exercises for each muscle group. You do not need to be doing everything for one muscle group. You just need to be doing a good quality handful of things for each muscle group. I genuinely think, and this was one massive mistake that I used to fall into all of the time. Like, please know that I fell into this a lot, where I would chop and change up my exercises every week. And I would do literally about 10 exercises per day of all different kind of movements, thinking that this was what I needed to do because obviously the more the better. No. Quality always beats quantity. Remember that. You don't need a harder workout. You need to work harder. Okay? That's actually a massive thing that I want you to take from this episode. You do not need harder workouts. You need to work harder. So please remind yourself of that when it comes to training. Training is so important, obviously, as we know, especially if we want to build muscle mass. Okay? Food is extremely important. Nutrition is extremely important, of course, when it comes to creating any physique goal. But when it comes to building muscle mass and when it comes to creating a physique that we really, like a certain shape, and creating a physique that we really want to change, training is massive. Structure is so important. Consistency, extremely important. Intensity. Oh my days. If I could tell you one thing, it's to go into your training this week and just work 1% harder. To just give it 1 extra percent, and you, my friend, will feel so much change and so much difference just from that. Push yourself that 1 extra rep. Push yourself to do a little bit more, whether it's, as I said, 1 extra rep, whether it's slightly increasing your weight, whether it's controlling something better. Just bring up that intensity by 1% in your training sessions this week. And I promise you, you'll be well able. I promise you that. Firstly, you might think, oh my God, but I'm already doing so much and I'm already working harder. I promise you, you could do a little bit more. And you will surprise yourself going into this week now and doing that little bit more and realizing, oh, I actually could probably be more purposeful and be more intense with my training. And that over consistency and that over time will help you massively. Stop changing things. Stop constantly going into the gym and winging it. Stop constantly going into the gym and changing your exercises and your movements. As I said, go in with more intensity and go in with consistency, and you'll see more changes than ever before. Now we're going to get into the glute growth specifics when it comes to obviously building your dream physique. Personally, I wanted to add this in here because I know that majority of the clients that I have and that I talk to want to grow their glutes, okay? Majority of the team, we all want bigger glutes. Majority of females in general, we all want bigger glutes. We're caught in this crossroad at the moment that we all want bigger glutes, but at the same time, everyone wants to lose weight. So it's very tough because, as I said, if you want to grow your glutes, you need to know that it's going to take more time than you expect, because if you want to shed off any unwanted body fat first, that needs to be done. And then you go into a growth phase, right? And if it's the case that you're not willing to change your mindset to, I need to build, not shrink, you're never going to get very far, especially when it comes to glute growth, because you definitely need to be building, not shrinking, when it comes to growing your glutes. Your glutes are muscles, and they're actually made up of a few different muscles. It's not just one, okay? We need to treat them like muscles. We need to treat them and make sure that we are doing everything we can to grow, to actually allow them to recover, to build, and to be in a position that they can get everything that we can give them to get to the goal that we want. One massive thing that obviously, and that's why, as I was saying that, I was thinking of this example. Everyone would be like, I want to grow my glutes, I want to grow my glutes. But then they're not willing to eat more. They're not willing to train harder. They're not willing to rest and recover when needs be. And they're not willing to come out of the mindset of, okay, well, if I want to grow, then I need to get uncomfortable. But everyone wants to grow their glutes. But your glutes are muscles. And if we want to grow that muscle, we need to train them consistently. We can't be doing random booty workouts that we see online or that might help someone else. We need to train consistently with something that helps us and with our specific goal. These booty workouts and these banded workouts and all these random things that maybe you're doing once a week and then chopping and changing them, it is not getting you anywhere. You need a well-structured plan. You need compound movements and isolation movements. You need accessory movements in there as well in order to target each muscle within the glute muscle group. Okay? Different movements target different functions and areas of the glutes. As I said, there's different muscle groups within the glutes themselves. Another massive thing, don't chase that burning sensation. You hear everyone be like, oh my God, that burnt my glutes. Here's a massive glute burner, all of these weird things. No, we're not chasing a burn. We're not chasing our glutes burning. We are chasing progressive overload and intensity and good quality workouts. We're not chasing a banded workout, a little booty pump. We are chasing our glutes and our muscle growing. Okay? You don't get that through a little burn and through a little booty pump. You get that through progressive overload and quality and time. That's why you need structure. That's why you need specific movements. And that's why we need to add more stimulus to our training programs in order to get very, very specific with what we want. As I said, more isn't always better. Quality over quantity. Please know that. If you want to build your glutes, as I mention this all of the time through every single topic that we go into here, but you need to give yourself time, okay? Your glute muscle is a very, very big muscle as well. So that's why we need to be very specific with the program that we're structuring out for it, with regards to how we eat to obviously benefit the growth itself, and obviously as well as that, what we're doing over time, not just once, not just going into the gym once or twice or even 3 times, what we're doing over time and progressing with to actually help and aid our glute growth. Okay? Now, when it comes to growth in general, rest and recovery is so damn important. I don't think people realize how important this is. Okay. I wanted to leave this a little bit further down because obviously everything else pairs off together, whereas this is a section in its own. Rest and recovery is something people neglect because they think, oh, I'm being lazy, or I need to do more, or I need to be constantly burning, I need to be constantly gassed out in order to see results. That's a lie. Okay. The hustle and the grind and the 24/7, that's a lie. It's a lie. Please stop listening to it, because if you're not recovering as you should, your muscle is not going to build and it's not going to grow. Because let me tell you this, your growth doesn't happen in the gym. Your growth happens when you're recovering from what you did in the gym. Let me say that again. Your growth does not happen in the gym throughout your workout. It happens when you're recovering from the workout that you did in the gym. Your muscle, while you're in the gym, breaks down. You tear fibers, you tear the muscle down, and you are training with pure intensity in order to do this. When you're recovering, your muscle is growing back bigger and stronger and better. If you're not recovering, you're not giving your muscle the chance to grow back. You're not giving the muscle the chance to actually grow back bigger, better, stronger. So, tell me now, after you knowing this, why you're not taking rest days, why you're not taking recovery seriously. Because recovery is probably second when it comes to everything and building muscle. Training provides the stimulus, okay? Training provides the intensity. It obviously provides us working and engaging the muscle. Recovery provides your body being able to adapt to this. Recovery allows your body to actually catch up to this, adapt and come back stronger. Muscle isn't built while you're doing your last set. The building process happens afterwards. It happens as your muscle is repairing and recovering. Sleep is incredibly important. Come on, we hear about this all of the time, and this is why sleep is incredibly important, because obviously it's the most active time of recovery. We're asleep, our body's repairing, our body's recovering as much as possible, whether it's mind, whether it's physique and muscle, whether it's soul, but your body is repairing everything while you're asleep. Rest days are not to be considered as being lazy or that you don't care. It's extremely important. And a lot of the time when anyone new starts on the New Narrative team, they'll always ask, oh, there's a lot of rest days, or, I can train more, or I can do more. And I'm like, more is not better. I'm telling you now, more is not better. These rest days are there for a reason, especially because now you're following a new structure, you're following new intensity and new training days. If you feel like you don't need these rest days, you're doing something wrong in training. That's something to take with you today as well. If you feel like you don't need to rest and recover, you're not training hard enough. Because if you were training with full intensity, and if you were training to the best of your ability with full quality, you best believe you would need a rest day and you would need to recover. You best believe it. Stop training hard 7 days a week because you think that more is better. You think that this will get you faster results. That's a lie. It's a myth. It's a legend. It is not true. What you need to be focusing on is training very hard while you're training and recovering very hard while you're recovering. Okay? You need to manage your stress outside of the gym as well as your stress in the gym, because your body is growing, it's repairing, it's recovering, it's building through both. And give your muscle enough time to recover before going back into the gym, going hell for leather again, and actually hammering it out of training and out of engagement, because it doesn't really matter if you're giving absolutely everything to your training and absolutely everything to your muscle, but you're not actually allowing it to repair. So yes, recovery should be a part of the program, not something that maybe if you might like to, you'll recover and you'll rest and you'll have your sleep in a better position or your stress in a better position, or you'll give yourself time to sit down and relax. No. It's not about if, it's about that has to be done. Okay, so Our last topic on all of this, right? I know that a lot of you are female, and that is why I want to bring this in. We need to make sure that we are being female specific here as well, because the female body is very, very different to the male body. The female body works completely different. Obviously, hormones, mindset, the actual composition of our body, the bone structure, our muscle growth, everything, right? The first thing that we need to take into consideration as a female is to not panic when the scales go up, because our body composition is most likely improving. And that's something that I try to get across to everyone, anyone that will listen to me. If you are building muscle, you need to remind yourself that muscle weighs more than body fat, but body fat takes up more room on your frame. So if you're building more muscle, it's going to take up less room on your frame. So you are going to appear smaller, tighter, firmer, more defined, toned, lean, as we love. But you might actually be going up on the scales because muscle weighs more than the body fat. But we don't want the body fat. Now, a lot of the time, what we'll see happen is the scales will drop, or it might kind of maintain, and that's fine as well, before we start seeing more and more fluctuations depending on the goals. So yes, that's the first thing, and especially as a female, because our body doesn't work the same as a male. A male that goes into a body recomp or wants to build muscle, it will work a lot easier for them because they've more testosterone. Guys, it's science. They have more testosterone. Their hormones don't fluctuate as much as ours. Their body isn't trying and like screaming out for them to have a child. So it's not trying to keep hold of body fat, and it's not trying to protect their organs as much as ours. As a female, our hormones are constantly fluctuating. We don't have as much testosterone. We actually have more things that are going to allow us to gather body fat and store body fat. Our body obviously wants to store body fat as well, because it wants to protect our body for if there is a child and if we do get pregnant. Also, just the fluctuations in general within our hormonal state and throughout the month is going to cause a massive effect to the scale and to our mindset alone. Okay? One thing I will say, especially if you are looking to do a body recomp and if you're trying to change how your body looks and not just what it weighs, is to make sure you are taking photos, to make sure you are logging and tracking your strength within the gym, to see kind of how your clothes fit and what's happening with the clothing that you're wearing, because it probably will start fitting differently and you'll start seeing, oh, it might be looser on your waist, maybe tighter on your glutes. That's a win. That's a win because we want our waist getting smaller. We want our glutes getting bigger. So instead of just focusing in on, stepping on the scales and looking at a number, we want to change the look of our body, not the weight of it. We want to change the shape of our body, not what the scale says. Okay. So there's other things that we need to take into consideration: measurements, photos, strength within the gym, because obviously the stronger we're getting, the more muscle we're going to be gaining. The more muscle we gain, the stronger we're going to be able to lift. So obviously that's very important. And of course, how your clothes fit. That's going to tell you an awful lot more than just the scales themselves. As a female, okay, and obviously as I mentioned, our hormones fluctuate drastically. So we need to be a lot more cautious of fueling ourselves correctly with regards to our hormonal health and with regards to our overall health and our bodily functions. Because as a male, it's a lot more black and white and it's a lot more surface level when it comes to food. But as a female, because our hormones are fluctuating so much, we do need to fuel our body better, and we need to look at our macros and specifics when it comes to food, so that we are obviously making sure that our hormonal health is also first when it comes to making sure, nothing is going missing, like your periods say, nothing is fluctuating like it shouldn't be, everything is regulated and everything is smooth sailing. As a female, we don't have as much testosterone as a male, so we might not be able to lift as heavy. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be giving 100% still of what we can give, okay? Also, as we know, female bodies, hormones, we're going to fluctuate an awful lot more. So there could be one week where we are on top of the world, we're lifting as heavy as possible, giving 100%. And then there could be one week where we're not lifting half as much, we're fatigued, our energy is on the floor, but we're still giving the 100% that we can give for that day. That's very important. But just to realize that, yes, female body recomp and changing a female body and how it looks and your female physique is extremely different to changing and building a male physique. So if you are kind of looking at someone online, a male, or your partner or your brother or any kind of male around you that you're looking at being like, what? How is that happening so fast? How are they doing this? Yeah, girl, I hear you, okay? Because they do have it a little bit easier with regards to number one, just male genetics. Obviously, firstly, if we take it way back to hunting and gathering and way back when, obviously the male was to be perceived as a stronger, fitter, healthier, to go out and to hunt and to gather and to get food and provide, okay? So the male body and anatomy is built for being bigger and stronger than females, unfortunately. Also, as well as that, hormonal aspects come into it. They have more testosterone, which is going to be better for building muscle and for building strength. But as well as that, their hormones don't fluctuate as much as ours do. So it means that they're on a linear, more surface level to their goals rather than we are, because our body weight's going to fluctuate, our strength is going to fluctuate, our feelings and our mindset's going to fluctuate, our hormones are going to fluctuate. They have none of that, okay? They don't have any, they don't have to worry about any of that. So of course, theirs is just like more of a straight line path to their goals, whereas we have a lot more to consider. And obviously, as well as that, our body is screaming out for us to get pregnant. And this is another thing, your body wants to store body fat rather than get rid of it. I'm not even going to start getting into the hormonal aspects that might cause problems, because that's for another episode. But please know that, of course, yes, there is some hormonal issues that can come in and cause problems, or may take longer than to build muscle or to change your physique. So, some massive takeaways that we need to take from this in general, okay, is that number one, our mindset needs to change here. If we want to build our dream physique, we need to change our mindset into building and not shrinking, because building your dream physique has nothing got to do with being your skinniest, smallest self, okay? If you want to build muscle, if you want to build your glutes, if you want more muscle on your back, if you want to look lean, if you want to look toned, fit, strong, healthy, looking like you go to the gym, we are building that dream physique. We are not shrinking it. And also, your dream physique is not your dream physique if it's a nightmare to maintain. Okay? You cannot undertrain yourself into your dream physique. You need to be training with intensity. You need to be training with purpose. There's levels to this. There's so many levels to this when it comes to training. There's techniques, there's mechanics, there's so many different things that we need to bring into training. And that is why a structure and a plan is so much more important than going into the gym and just kicking your feet on certain, say, machines or walking around not really knowing what to do. You need to be able to train properly and with intensity in order to see your muscle grow. You cannot recover poorly and expect your body to grow optimally, okay? You cannot go into the gym and train your arse off and then decide not to recover and expect to see your body grow optimally. Because obviously, you need to allow your body a chance to actually grow and repair. So we need to fuel, we need to train, we need to recover, and we need to repeat. And all of these things need to be done consistently and over time. Consistently and over time. Okay? Please always remember, queens, your dream body isn't necessarily the smallest version or the thinnest version of yourself. A lot of the time, it's the strongest, most fueled, and healthiest version of you. Sometimes getting the body you want means letting go of the obsession with being smaller and actually allowing yourself and becoming willing to build. If you have gotten this far, Of course, thank you so much. And as you know, if there is absolutely any questions, please fire them my way. I absolutely loved this episode. I loved chatting through all of this with you all. As you can tell, I'm extremely passionate about this as well. And I know that there can be so many light bulb moments going off through this episode. There's probably so many things that you've taken in, and I really hope that there was. But if there's one thing that you can take on this, it is that if you want to build muscle, if you want to look lean, toned, like you go to the gym, you do need to build your dream physique, not shrink it. And always remember, Queens, if you're having an off day or you just simply don't believe in yourself, I am always over here rooting for you. And I'm always over here believing in you.